Poor quadruplets were asking for money in 7 languages at the airport. The billionaire, curious, asks, "What's all this for?" One of them shows a photo, and he, with tears in his eyes, does the unbelievable. Ethan Wallace pulled his rolling suitcase through the corridor of JFK International Airport, trying to ignore the weariness that weighed on his shoulders. 3 days in Miami closing a $50 million deal. His financial consulting firm had grown beyond his most ambitious expectations. At 32, he was considered one of the most promising young billionaires in the country. But financial success didn't fill the emptiness he had carried in his chest for 8 years. The terminal was bustling, as always. Hurrying executives spoke on their phones. Families said their goodbyes. Tourists consulted maps. Ethan walked toward the exit, anxious to get to his Manhattan apartment and try to forget another day of numbers and negotiations. That's when he heard something unusual. "Excuse me, sir, could you help us?" The voice was small, polite. Ethan turned and nearly stumbled. 4 identical girls were standing in front of him, all about 6 years old. Brown hair, large dark eyes, simple but clean clothes. They were holding small, handmade signs. "Monsieur, s'il vous plaît, aidez-nous," said a second girl, trying French. "Señor, puede ayudarnos?" continued a third in Spanish. "Signore, ci aiuti," completed the fourth, in Italian. Ethan blinked, as impressed. The girls continued. "Herr, können Sie uns helfen?" German. "Xiansheng, Qing Bangzhu woman," Mandarin. "Sayid, min fadlik sa'idna," Arabic. And they returned to English. "Please, sir, we really need help." In 15 years of living in New York, Ethan had seen all sorts of situations, but 4 identical 6-year-old girls asking for help in 7 different languages. This was a first. "You speak all of these?" he asked, genuinely impressed. "Our mother taught us," replied the first girl, who seemed to be the leader of the group. "She says, if you know how to talk to people, you can touch their hearts." "And you're here alone?" "Yes, sir. We came to ask for help for our mom." Ethan looked around, searching for a responsible adult. There was no one. Those 4 children were truly alone in one of the busiest airports in the world. "Where are your parents?" "It's just our mum," explained the second girl. "She's very sick at home." "And how did you get here?" "By bus and subway," the third answered matter-of-factly. "We know the way." Ethan knelt to their level, his heart tightening. 6-year-old children navigating New York's public transport alone was far too dangerous. "What are your names?" "I'm Emma," said the leader. "These are my sisters, Sophie, Grace, and Lily. We're quadruplets." "And why do you think I can help?" Emma studied him with eyes too serious for a child. "You stopped to listen to us, and you have a kind face. Our mom always says that people with kind faces have kind hearts too." "Besides," added Sophie, "your clothes are expensive. We learned to recognize them." Ethan looked down at his own suit. Armani, $3,000. To these girls, he must have looked exactly like what he was, someone with enough money to help. "So what happened to your mother?" "She lost her job 2 months ago," Grace explained. "Since then, she's been working 3 different jobs, but she still can't pay all the bills." "And now she's sick," continued Lily. "She has a high fever and can't even get out of bed. But she doesn't want to go to the doctor because she says we don't have the money." "That's why we came here," said Emma. "My mom always taught us languages. She said one day it would be useful. So we thought, if we can talk to more people, maybe someone will help us." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. The intelligence and determination of these girls were impressive. And at the same time, heartbreaking. No child should have to be this smart, this independent. "Have you gotten anything today?" The girls exchanged embarrassed glances. "Some people gave us money," Sophie admitted, "but not much. Most people just walk right by." "Or they get angry," added Grace. "A man yelled that we were liars." "But we're not," Lily said quickly. "We never lie." "I believe you," Ethan said, and he realized it was true. There was a sincerity in these girls that was impossible to fake. "Do you have a picture of your mum?" he asked, not sure why the question had come out. Emma nodded and pulled an old phone with a cracked screen from her jacket pocket. She fiddled with it for a few seconds with small but skillful fingers and held the device out to him. "Here, this was taken on our birthday, last month." Ethan took the phone and looked at the screen. His world collapsed. There, smiling tiredly but genuinely happy, with 4 identical girls in her arms, was Claire Morgan. Older, with worry lines around her eyes that didn't exist before, but unmistakably Claire. Claire, who had been the love of his life. Claire, who had disappeared one morning 8 years ago, leaving only a note saying it was for the best. Claire, whom he had desperately searched for months before finally giving up. Claire, who had apparently changed her name and was now raising 4 daughters alone. "Sir." Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you okay?" Ethan realized his hands were shaking. He returned the phone and tried to control his voice. "What? What is your mother's full name?" "Claire Morgan," replied Sophie. "Why? Do you know her?" Ethan closed his eyes for a second. Claire Sullivan had become Claire Morgan. She had changed her identity, started a new life, away from him. "I knew her," he murmured, "a long time ago." "So you'll help us?" Emma took a step forward, her eyes shining with hope. Ethan looked at the 4 girls. Now that he knew who their mother was, he could see Claire in each of them. The shape of their eyes, the determination in their chins, even the way Emma tilted her head when she was concentrating. Claire had daughters, quadruplets, and from what they had told him, she was raising them alone, working 3 jobs, sick, and with no money for medical treatment. The woman he had loved more than life itself was suffering, and her daughters, who were the same age they had dreamed their own children would one day be, were begging in an airport. "Where do you live?" he asked, his voice coming out hoarser than he intended. "Queens," Grace replied. "A small apartment, but it's ours." "Come on," Ethan said, picking up his suitcase. "Let's go see your mother." "Really?" Emma's eyes widened. "Are you really going to help us?" Ethan looked at her, at all of them, and felt something he hadn't felt in 8 years. Purpose, a reason to use all the money he had accumulated. "I'm going to do more than help," he said, surprising himself with his own determination. "I'm going to take care of you." The drive to Queens was an emotional roller coaster. Ethan had called his private driver, and the girls were amazed by the luxurious car. "Wow, it's like in the movies," Lily whispered, touching the leather seat with reverence. "Are you very rich?" Grace asked with the frankness typical of children. "Yes," Ethan answered simply. "They're very rich. And are you really going to help our mum?" Sophie wanted to know. "I'm going to help your mum and you, I promise." Emma studied him in the rearview mirror. "Why are you crying?" Ethan brought a hand to his face. Surprised. He was crying. Silent tears that he had held back for 8 years were finally finding their way out. "Just sometimes adults cry when they're happy," he said, trying to explain the unexplainable. "Our mum cries like that sometimes," Lily observed, "when she thinks we're not looking." The tightness in Ethan's chest grew. Claire cried alone. Claire, who had always been strong, independent, was breaking in silence. "Tell me about her," he asked. What is she like now?" "She's the best mom in the world," Emma said immediately. "She works so hard to take care of us. And she's very smart," added Sophie. "She knows many languages and teaches us everything. And she makes the best pancakes when she has the ingredients," said Grace, licking her lips. "But sometimes she gets very sad," Lily admitted, "especially when the bills arrive." "She never talks about our dad," Emma said suddenly. "We know there is one, because everyone has one, but she never tells us anything." Ethan swallowed hard. Who was the girl's father, and why wasn't he in their lives? "We're here," the driver announced. The building where Claire lived was old, in need of repairs. It wasn't the worst place Ethan had ever seen, but it was far from suitable for a single mother with 4 daughters. The girls guided him up the stairs to the 3rd floor. Ethan felt his heart racing with every step. In a few seconds, he would see Claire again. The woman he had loved, the woman who had run away, the woman who, apparently, had rebuilt her life without him. "Apartment 3B, said Emma, stopping in front of a door that had once been blue. Ethan took a deep breath. 8 years of unanswered questions were about to have at least a few answers. Emma knocked on the door. "Mommy, it's us. And we brought a surprise." Slow footsteps approached. The sound of several locks being undone, clear evidence that Claire worried about security in a neighborhood that probably wasn't the safest. The door opened, and there she was. Claire looked smaller than he remembered, thinner, more fragile. She was wearing wrinkled pajamas and her hair was tied in a messy bun. She was clearly sick, pale, with deep dark circles under her eyes, trembling slightly. But it was still Claire. They were still the same eyes that had mesmerized him 8 years ago. It was still the woman he had loved more than life itself. She looked first at her daughters, relief evident on her face. Then her eyes turned to Ethan. The transformation in her expression was instantaneous. Shock, terror, something that might have been hope or panic, he couldn't distinguish. "You," was all she managed to say, her voice coming out as a strangled whisper. "Hi, Claire," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady despite the emotional earthquake he felt. "So as your daughters found me?" Claire looked at the girls with a mixture of pride and desperation. "I told you not to go out alone," she murmured. "But Mommy, you were so sick," Emma protested. "And we got help. This is Mr. Ethan, and he's very rich and very kind." "And he knows you," added Sophie excitedly. "He cried when he saw your picture." Claire closed her eyes, as if trying to wake up from a nightmare, or maybe trying to go back into one. "Come in," she said finally, stepping away from the door. "Please." The apartment was small but organized. Second-hand furniture, walls that needed painting, but everything was clean and lovingly cared for. There were drawings by the girls stuck to the refrigerator, books in various languages stacked on a makeshift shelf. Claire leaned against the wall, clearly struggling to stay on her feet. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but without hostility, more like a statement of the inevitable. "Your daughters were asking for money at the airport," Ethan replied. "Tuasi in 7 different languages." Claire closed her eyes, humiliation and pride warring on her face. "I didn't know. They didn't tell me what they were going to do." "Mommy, we just wanted to help," said Grace. "Mr. Ethan is very kind. And he's going to take care of us," added Lily. Claire looked at Ethan with something close to panic. "Ethan, you don't understand. You can't just—" She was interrupted by a violent coughing fit. When she stopped, she was out of breath and even paler. "You need a doctor," Ethan said. "I can't afford it." "I can, and I will." "No." "Claire, you're clearly very sick. Your daughters are begging for money to get medicine for you. This isn't a discussion." She tried to argue, but another wave of coughing cut her off. "That's it," Ethan said, making a decision. "We're going to the hospital. Now." "The girls, they're coming with us." Claire looked at him for a long moment. He saw pride fighting against relief, need fighting against fear. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why do you want to do this?" Ethan looked at her, at the 4 girls watching the conversation with large, hopeful eyes, at the apartment that told a story of struggle and love and sacrifice. "Because 8 years ago, I lost the most important person in my life," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And I'm not going to lose you again." Claire began to cry. Silent tears she tried to hide from her daughters. "Okay," she whispered. "But later we need to talk." "Later," Ethan agreed. "Now let's take care of you." While Claire got changed, Ethan called his private doctor. Dr. Harrison was discreet, competent, and didn't ask questions. In 15 minutes, he would be at the private hospital waiting for them. "Are you going to stay with us?" asked Emma. "I'll stay with you for as long as you need me," Ethan promised. And for the first time in 8 years, he felt he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Claire had been admitted for observation. Ethan's private doctor, Dr. Harrison, had confirmed early-stage pneumonia that could have been serious if left untreated. She would stay at least 2 days in the hospital receiving intravenous antibiotics. Now Ethan was in the pediatric hallway, looking at 4 identical girls sitting in a row of blue chairs. They were dangling their legs, which didn't reach the floor, and whispering among themselves. "And now," asked Emma, always the group's spokesperson. "Now you come with me," Ethan said. "John, your mum is going to be fine, but she needs to rest, and you need to eat something." "We can stay here," Sophie offered. "We know how to be quiet in hospitals." The casualness with which she said it made Ethan's heart ache. 6-year-old children shouldn't have experience being quiet in hospitals. "No, you're coming with me. We'll eat, and then—" "Well, we'll see." Grace looked at him with curiosity. "See what?" "Where you're going to sleep tonight." The girls exchanged glances. "We can go back home," said Lily. "We can take care of ourselves." "Absolutely not," Ethan replied immediately. You're not staying alone. But we're always alone when Mum works late, Emma argued. Another revelation that made Ethan wonder how Claire had gotten into this situation. But this wasn't the time for difficult questions. Not today, he said simply. Today, you're staying with me. They left the hospital and Ethan called his driver. The girls still seemed impressed by the luxurious car, touching the leather seats with reverence. Where are we going to eat? Asked Sophie. Ethan thought of the expensive restaurants he frequented, places with formal waiters, menus in French, a quiet atmosphere, totally unsuitable for 4 6-year-old children. Do you like burgers? He asked. We've never had one, Grace admitted. Never. Mum says it's too expensive, Emma explained. We eat at home. Ethan felt a pang. Burgers were considered cheap food, fast food. For Claire, it was an unaffordable luxury. Well, today you're going to try one, he said. Charles, take us to the nearest Shake Shack. 15 minutes later, they were in a bustling burger joint on the Upper East Side. The atmosphere was casual, full of families and young people. Very different from the quiet, formal world Ethan inhabited. The girls sat at a round table, looking around with wide eyes. Everything there was new to them. The colorful lights, the smell of fried food, the buzz of conversations. What do you want? Ethan asked, holding the menu. We can't read some of the names, Sophie admitted. Ethan sat beside them and began to explain each item. Burgers, French fries, milkshakes, nuggets. The girls listened attentively, as if they were in an important class. Can I have French fries? Lily asked shyly. You can order anything you want. Anything? Emma's eyes widened. Anything? When the order arrived, 4 small burgers, a mountain of French fries, 4 milkshakes and nuggets to share, the girls were silent for a moment. That's a lot of food, Grace whispered. It's for you, Ethan said. Eat as much as you want. But they didn't eat as much as they wanted. They ate carefully, small bites, savoring each piece as if it were their last. They saved some nuggets in their napkins. Why are you saving them? Ethan asked. For later, Emma replied, in case we get hungry later. If you get hungry, we'll buy more food. The girls looked at him as if he had said something impossible. You can buy food whenever you want, asked Sophie. The innocent question hit Ethan like a punch. For him, food was something that had always been available. For these girls, it was a limited resource that had to be rationed. Yes, he said gently. Whenever you want. Lily began to cry softly. Why are you crying? Grace asked, concerned. Just because it's so good, Lily sobbed, and I was so hungry, but I didn't want to tell Mom. Ethan felt his throat tighten. 6-year-old children hiding their own hunger so as not to worry their mother. You don't have to be hungry anymore, he said, his voice coming out hoarser than he intended. I promise. Emma studied him with her serious eyes. How can you promise that? Because I have enough money to take care of you, all of you. Forever, asked Grace. Forever. The girls went back to eating, now more relaxed. Ethan watched each of them, trying to identify their individual personalities. Emma was clearly the leader, always speaking for the group, always alert. Sophie seemed to be the most observant, paying attention to everything around her. Grace had a natural sense of humor, making little jokes that made her sisters laugh. Lily was the most sensitive, the one who expressed the emotions the others tried to hide. You are all very different from each other, he observed. Everyone says we're the same, said Sophie. But we know it's not true. How do you tell each other apart? It's easy, replied Grace. Emma always frowns when she's thinking. Sophie bites her lip when she's nervous. Lily plays with her hair when she's sad. And I... She paused and thought, well, I laugh more than the others. And how do outsiders tell you apart? They don't, Emma said matter-of-factly. At school, the teachers always get us mixed up. Sometimes we switch places just to see if they notice. And do they notice? Never. The 4 of them laughed together. Ethan smiled. It was the first time he had seen them truly relaxed, acting like normal children. And at home, does your mum get you mixed up? Mum never gets us mixed up, Lily said with pride. She always knows who is who, even in the dark. How? She says each of us has a different smell, Sophie explained, and different ways of breathing when we sleep. Claire's dedication to knowing each daughter individually touched Ethan deeply. Even raising 4 identical girls alone, she had made an effort to recognize the uniqueness of each one. What do you like to play? he asked, changing the subject. We make up stories, said Emma. And we play school. I'm always the teacher. Of course you are, Grace muttered, making her sisters laugh. And what do you all like to do? I like to draw, said Sophie, especially people. I like to sing, said Grace. My mom taught us some songs. I like to read, said Lily, even if I don't know all the words yet. And I like to take care of my sisters, Emma said simply. Again, Emma's premature maturity made Ethan's heart ache. At 6, she had already taken on a role of responsibility that shouldn't be hers. Today you don't have to take care of anyone, he said. Emma, today is just for playing. Where? Asked Grace. At my house. When they finished eating, Ethan took them to his apartment in Manhattan. It was a penthouse overlooking Central Park, decorated by a famous designer. Everything in neutral tones, expensive furniture, modern art on the walls, elegant, sophisticated, and completely impersonal. The girls came in and stood in silence, looking around with reverence. Wow, Sophie whispered. It's like a museum. You can touch everything, Ethan said quickly. You can sit wherever you want, play wherever you want. But they remained standing at the entrance, clearly intimidated. We won't break anything, Lily asked worriedly. And if you do, it's okay. They're just things. Emma looked at him skeptically. Mom always says that when we go to other people's houses, we have to be very careful. This isn't other people's house. Today, it's your house too. Gradually, they began to explore. Timidly at first, touching things with care, then with more confidence. Grace discovered the grand piano in the living room. Can I play? She asked. Of course. She pressed a few keys, creating a simple but sweet melody. Soon the other three joined her, softly singing a song Claire had taught them. Ethan sat on the sofa, watching. His house had always been silent. He would come home from work, have dinner alone, watch TV alone, sleep alone. Silence was his constant companion. Now there was music. There was laughter. There was life. Sophie found paper and a pencil on Ethan's desk and started to draw. Soon she was making portraits of her sisters, surprisingly detailed for a 6-year-old. Lily discovered the library and sat on the floor, flipping through books she couldn't fully read yet, but whose pictures fascinated her. Emma, always observant, approached Ethan. Do you live here alone? She asked. Yes. Don't you get lonely? The simple question hit Ethan in the chest. Yes, he got lonely, terribly lonely, but he had gotten used to the loneliness, had learned to live with it. Sometimes, he admitted. We never get lonely, said Emma, because there are 4 of us. Even when we're sad, there's always someone to keep us company. You're lucky. We are. Mom always says God gave us to each other so we would never be alone. Ethan looked at the 4 girls scattered around his living room. Grace was still at the piano, now trying to play something more elaborate. Sophie had moved to the large window and was drawing the city view. Lily had found a book of photographs of exotic places and was flipping through it carefully. And for the first time in 8 years, Ethan didn't feel alone. Mr. Ethan. Grace stopped playing the piano. Doyson, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you cry when you saw our mum's picture? The other 3 stopped what they were doing and looked at him, clearly curious about the same thing. Ethan thought about how to explain without getting into details too complex for children. Your mum and I knew each other a long time ago, he said carefully. We were special friends, but we lost touch. How did you lose touch? Asked Sophie. Sometimes adults make complicated decisions, he said, repeating Claire's own words from the day before. Our mum always says that, Lily observed, that adults complicate everything. Your mum was always smart. Did you like her? Emma asked directly. Very much. And now? Ethan hesitated. How could you explain to a 6-year-old that you had never stopped loving someone, even after 8 years of separation? I still like her, he said simply. So are you going to get back together? Grace asked hopefully. I don't know. That's a decision your mum has to make too. She'll want to, Emma said with conviction. Mum gets sad sometimes, we see it, and sad people need people who like them. Their simple wisdom surprised Ethan again. You're all very smart, he said. Mum taught us to pay attention to things, Sophie explained. She says when you really pay attention, You can understand what people are feeling. And what do you think I'm feeling right now? The four looked at each other as if communicating silently. Happy? Grace said finally. But also a little scared. Why? Because it's been a long time since you've had real company, Emma observed. Now you have four all at once. And that's scary. No, said Lily. It's good. The house is better with people in it. Ethan looked around. She was right. The apartment that had always seemed elegant and sophisticated now just seemed cold. But with the girls there, with their drawings scattered about, with the sound of the piano and their conversations, everything felt more alive. You're right, he said. It's much better. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the house. They discovered the balcony with a view of the park, the guest room that had never been used, the gourmet kitchen where Ethan rarely cooked. You have a lot of food here, Sophie observed, looking at the full pantry. And no children to help eat it, added Grace. Now I have four, said Ethan. As evening fell, the girls started to get sleepy. It had been a lot of emotions in one day. Their mother's illness and the hospital, the food at the burger joint and the new house. Where are we going to sleep? Asked Emma. Ethan realized he hadn't planned this properly. He had a guest room, but only one king-sized bed. Do you usually sleep together? Always, said Lily. So we have two beds in our room, but sometimes we all sleep in one. Especially when we're worried, added Sophie. Are you worried today? A little bit, Emma admitted. About Mom being in the hospital. She's going to be fine, Ethan assured them. Dr. Harrison is the best doctor I know. He prepared the guest room, putting extra pillows on the large bed. The girls took baths one at a time. Though identical, each had little different rituals. Emma brushed her teeth for exactly 2 minutes. Sophie fixed her hair even though she knew she was going to sleep. Grace sang softly in the shower. Lily always checked that the door was securely closed. When they were finally all in bed, wearing t-shirts Ethan had improvised as pajamas, they looked too small in the big bed. Mr. Ethan, Grace called out in the dark. Yes? Thank you. For what? For taking care of us, and our mom. You don't have to thank me. Yes, we do, said Emma. Mom always says that when someone is kind to us, we should thank them. Your mum taught you well. She taught us to be polite even when we're sad or scared, added Sophie. And are you scared now? A little, Lily admitted, but less than if we were alone. Ethan sat in the chair beside the bed. Do you want me to stay here until you fall asleep? Can you? Emma asked hopefully. Of course. He settled into the armchair and watched the four girls get comfortable in bed. They arranged themselves naturally, Emma on the edge, always in a position to protect the others, Sophie and Grace in the middle, close to each other, Lily on the other edge, her thumb near her mouth though she no longer sucked it. In a few minutes, their breathing had become regular. Ethan remained seated, watching. For the first time in 8 years, he wasn't alone at home. For the first time in 8 years, there was real life in his silent rooms. For the first time in 8 years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. The girls had filled a void he didn't even know existed, not just the physical silence of the house, but something deeper, an absence of purpose, of real connection, of love. Now there were 4 little people depending on him, 4 futures he could help shape, 4 hearts he could protect, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to win back the love he had lost 8 years ago. Ethan smiled in the dark, listening to the girls' soft breathing. For the first time in a long time, he was exactly where he wanted to be. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of soft giggles coming from the kitchen. For a moment, he was disoriented. He hadn't woken up to the sounds of other people in his house in 8 years. He got up and found the 4 girls sitting at the kitchen table, sharing a bowl of cereal they had found in the pantry. They were eating slowly, each taking small spoonfuls. "Good morning," said Ethan. "Good morning, Mr. Ethan," they replied in unison. "You didn't have to share one bowl. There's enough cereal for each of you." Emma looked at him in surprise. "Really?" "Of course. And there are other things too. Let me make you a real breakfast." He opened the refrigerator and noticed how full it was. Eggs, bacon, fruit, juices, yogurts. Things he rarely ate, kept by a housekeeper who came twice a week to organize his home. "Do you like pancakes?" he asked. "We've never had them," said Sophie. "Our mom sometimes makes them when she has flour," Grace explained, "but she calls them Special crepes. Ethan smiled. Claire had always been creative in making a little seem special. He prepared pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon, and served sliced fruit. The girls watched his every move attentively, as if memorizing the abundance. When they sat down to eat, they again showed the same care as the day before. Small pieces, slow chewing, savoring every bite. "Is it good?" Ethan asked. "It's delicious," said Lily. "Thank you. You don't have to eat so slowly, there's plenty of food." "We know," said Emma, "but Mum always taught us to eat slowly. She says when you eat slowly, you feel full faster." Ethan realized it wasn't just a matter of manners. It was a survival strategy Claire had taught them. Eat slowly to feel full with less food. "Well," he said, trying to keep his tone casual, "today you can eat as much as you want." "Really?" asked Grace. "Really?" They exchanged glances, as if they couldn't believe it. "Mr. Ethan," Sophie said hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you going to disappear after our mom gets better?" The question caught him off guard. "And why would you think I'd do that?" "Because," Emma took over the answer, "people are sometimes nice for a while, but then they leave." "Who told you that?" "No one told us," Grace explained. "We saw it." "Saw it where?" The girls looked at each other, clearly deciding how much they should tell. "Mom lost her job," Emma said finally. The words came out simple, direct, as if they were just a fact of life. Ethan stopped eating. "When did that happen?" 3 months ago, Sophie replied. "She worked at a big store, handling the numbers, but they said they didn't need her anymore. And after that, she looked for other jobs," Grace continued, "but it's hard to find one. Especially when you have 4 daughters and can't work at night." Ethan felt a tightness in his chest. Claire had always been brilliant with numbers, organized, efficient. To imagine her being rejected in interview after interview. "Sometimes there's no food," Lily said softly, as if confessing a secret. "Lily," Emma gently scolded. "But it's true," Lily continued. "Sometimes Mum says she's not hungry, but we know she is. She just wants us to eat first." Ethan put his fork down on the plate, unable to continue eating. "Does she do that often?" "When there's not much food," Sophie confirmed. "She says she's already eaten, but we hear her stomach rumbling at night." "And you never told her you knew?" "We tried," said Grace. "But she gets sad when she realizes, so we pretend we don't see." Their maturity was both impressive and heartbreaking. 6-year-old children protecting their mother's feelings, pretending not to notice her hunger so as not to hurt her. "And what about the house you live in?" Ethan asked gently. "If we don't pay the rent, we have to leave," Emma said matter-of-factly. "The man who manages the building has already come to talk to Mom several times." "Is he mean?" Ethan asked. "No," Sophie replied. "He has children too, but he said he can't wait forever." "Mom cries after he leaves," Lily added. "She thinks we don't see, but we do." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, trying to absorb it all. Claire, proud and independent, had reached the point where she couldn't properly feed her daughters. She was about to lose their home. And yet, she had taught the girls to be polite, kind, hopeful. "And when did your mum get sick?" Ethan asked carefully. "We didn't know what to do," Emma admitted, her voice becoming small for the first time. "She had a high fever," Sophie explained, "and she was coughing a lot. We tried to take care of her, but she only got worse. We gave her water," said Grace, "and tried to make food, but we didn't know what was good for a sick person." "And she fainted," Lily whispered, "in the bathroom. So we were so scared. When she woke up, she was still very weak," Emma continued, "and we realized that maybe she would die if we didn't get help." "Is that why you went to the airport?" Ethan asked. "We wanted to help," Emma explained. "Mum always says that when you have a problem, you have to think of a solution. So we thought that a lot of rich people pass through the airport. People who have money to travel by plane," added Sophie, "and who come from different places. We thought maybe some would want to help a family," Grace continued. "And we knew how to talk to different people," said Lily. "Mom taught us many languages." "You are very brave," Ethan said. "We're not brave," Sophie corrected. "We were just scared." "Of what?" "Of what would happen to us," Lily admitted. "If Mom got very sick and couldn't take care of us anymore. Or if we had to go to different houses," Grace added in a small voice. "Different houses?" If something happened to Mom, Emma explained, they might have to separate us. Because 4 kids are a lot for just one family to want. Ethan's heart broke. They had considered the possibility of being separated. 4 girls who had never spent a day apart, imagining being divided among strangers. You worry a lot about your mom, Ethan observed. Of course, said Emma. She takes care of us all the time. We want to take care of her too. And how do you take care of her? We try not to cause trouble, Sophie explained, and not to ask for things we know she can't buy. And we try not to get sick, added Grace, because doctors are expensive. And if we see she's very sad, we make drawings for her, said Lily, or sing the songs she taught us. But when she got sick, Emma continued, we didn't know how to help. We had never seen her so weak. We were afraid she would go away forever, Lily whispered. Like Daddy, Grace added softly. Ethan looked at them, surprised. You remember your father? We never had a father, Emma corrected quickly. We just know he left before we were born. Mom never talks about him, Sophie explained. But sometimes she gets sad when she sees other families with fathers. That's why we didn't want her to leave too, said Grace, because then we would be truly alone. Ethan felt an intense emotion rise in his chest. These girls had grown up without a father, watching their mother struggle alone. And when she fell ill, they faced the deepest fear a child can have, all by themselves. Mr. Ethan, said Sophie, thank you for giving us so much breakfast. And for letting us sleep at your house, added Grace. And for helping our mom, said Lily. And for not leaving when we told you the truth, finished Emma. Ethan looked at them, feeling an emotion he hadn't experienced in years. It was love, pure, simple, inevitable. These 4 girls had entered his life less than 2 days ago and had already changed everything. They had filled a void he didn't even know existed, and now he knew with absolute certainty that he would do anything to protect them, to ensure they never went hungry again, never worried about rent again, never had to fear losing the only family they had ever known. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion, for letting me be a part of your lives. Will you stay? Asked Lily. I'll stay, Ethan promised. Farsa, for as long as you want me. After the revelation-filled breakfast, Ethan watched the 4 girls in the living room. They were sitting on the sofa, legs dangling, clearly not knowing what to do. There were no toys, no activities. His elegant, minimalist home offered nothing for children. Do you want to do something? He asked. Can we draw? Sophie asked shyly. So of course, let me get some paper. He brought a few sheets of printer paper from the office and a pen. The girls looked at the scarce materials with gratitude, as if it were a treasure. There's only 1 pen, Emma observed. We'll share, Grace said quickly. We always share. Ethan watched them organize themselves. Emma took the pen first, quickly drew something simple, and passed it to Sophie. Sophie made her drawing and passed it to Grace. Grace drew and passed it to Lily. Lily finished and handed it back to Emma. It was a perfect system, created out of necessity. They had learned to share not out of politeness, but for survival. You know what we need, Ethan said suddenly. Real supplies for you. You don't have to, Mr. Ethan, Emma said quickly. We can draw like this. I know you can, but you deserve to have your own things. The girls exchanged glances. Our own things, Lily repeated. Your own markers, colored pencils, notebooks, and toys. Toys? Grace's eyes widened. You don't have toys. We had some, Sophie explained, but Mom had to sell them when she ran out of money. And others broke, Emma added, and there was no way to fix them. Ethan felt his chest tighten again. Claire had sold her daughter's toys. The image of him trying to imagine that scene was too painful. Well, he said, getting up, that changes today. We're going shopping. Shopping? Emma seemed startled. For toys and school supplies. For you. But that must cost a lot of money, Sophie protested. Don't worry about money. Mom always tells us to worry about money, said Grace. Because it's not unlimited. For you, Ethan said firmly, today it is. An hour later, they were in a large toy store in downtown Manhattan. The girls walked through the aisles with wide eyes, as if they had entered a fantasy world. You can pick whatever you want, Ethan said. Anything, Lily whispered. Anything? But they didn't run through the aisles like most children would. They walked slowly, touching things carefully, whispering among themselves. Can I get this doll? Grace asked, pointing to a simple cloth doll. How you can get as many as you want. How many? As many as you want. Grace picked up the doll and hugged it to her chest, as if she couldn't believe it was real. Sophie found a set of colored pencils with 50 different colors. That's so many colors, she said, amazed. We've never seen so many colors together. Take it, Ethan encouraged. Emma discovered notebooks with shiny covers and smooth pages. Can I write in them? She asked. They're yours. You can do whatever you want. Even if I make a mistake. Even if you make a mistake. Lily found colored markers with different tips, some thick, some thin, some that glowed in the dark. Look, she whispered to her sisters. These glow when you turn off the light. The four gathered around the markers, marveling at the novelty. We'll take these too, Ethan said. In an hour, they had chosen 4 identical dolls at the girls' insistence, who wanted everything the same. Sets of colored pencils, markers, notebooks, coloring books, puzzles, simple games, and some educational toys. In the checkout line, the girls were quiet, still holding their dolls. Is everything okay? Ethan asked. It's a lot, Emma said softly. A lot of what? A lot of presents. We've never gotten so many things at once. You've never gotten presents? On our birthday, Mom always gives us something, Sophie explained. But it's always just one thing. And it's small. And at Christmas? Ethan asked. The girls looked at each other. At Christmas, it's also just one thing, said Grace. And sometimes, Mom makes it instead of buying it. She made us cloth dolls once, Lily remembered. From pieces of old clothes, they were very beautiful. And where are those dolls? We sold them, Emma admitted. When we needed money for food. The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan imagined Claire teaching her daughters to sell the toys she had made with so much love. Well, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, these dolls are just for you, forever. Back at the apartment, Ethan spread all the purchases out on the dining room table. Is all of this ours? Grace asked, still not believing it. All of it. Can we use it whenever we want? Whenever you want. And what if we make ugly drawings? Asked Lily. There's no such thing as an ugly drawing. And even if there were, the paper is yours. The girls looked at each other and, for the first time since Ethan had met them, smiled completely freely. Then they ran to the table and began to explore their new treasures. Sophie opened the set of colored pencils and began to arrange them by shade. Emma took a notebook and began to write her name on the first page in neat letters. Grace dressed her doll and began to comb her hair. Lily tested each marker, making small colored strokes on a sheet of paper. Mr. Ethan, Emma said without looking up from her notebook, thank you. You don't have to thank me. Yes, we do, Sophie insisted. Mom always says that when someone is kind to us, we have to show that we appreciate it. And we appreciate it a lot, added Grace, hugging her doll. A lot, Lily agreed. Ethan sat in the armchair and watched them. They were completely absorbed in their activities, but there was something different about their posture. Relaxation. For the first time, they didn't seem to be policing themselves, didn't seem worried about doing something wrong. Can I ask something? Emma said after a few minutes. Of course. Why are you being so nice to us? It was a simple but profound question. How to explain that seeing them had filled a void he didn't even know existed? How to say that taking care of them felt more right than anything he had done in the last 8 years? Because you deserve it, he said simply. Deserve it? You deserve to have toys. You deserve to have materials to draw. You deserve not to worry about money or food or rent. Do all children deserve that? Asked Sophie. And all children deserve that. Then why don't some have it? Grace wanted to know. The question hit Ethan like a punch. How to explain social injustice to a 6-year-old, how to talk about inequality to girls who were living it firsthand. Sometimes life isn't fair, he said carefully. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's right. And you want to make things fairer for us? Asked Lily. I do. And for our mom too. For your mom too. The girls returned to their activities, but Ethan could see they were thinking. After a few minutes, Emma spoke again. Mr. Ethan, are you going to work today? Normally I would, but you can work, she said quickly. We won't bother you. Don't worry about it. But we do worry, Sophie explained, because we don't want you to lose your job because of us. How do you know about losing a job? Our mum lost hers, Grace said simply. And then it was very hard to find another one. Ethan realized they had learned about consequences in a very adult way. They knew that a lost job meant lost money, that lost money meant problems. "I work from home anyway," he explained, "and I'm my own boss." "So you can't get fired?" asked Emma. "I can't." "Good," Lily sighed. "Then we don't have to worry." "I'll work from home," Ethan said. "Play, but don't disturb me, okay?" The girls beamed, exchanging excited glances. "Okay," they said in unison. "Can we play while you work?" asked Grace. "You can play whenever you want." "Without having to be quiet?" Sophie wanted to know. "So without having to be quiet, and without worrying if we're making noise?" asked Lily. "Without worrying about anything." For the first time, Ethan saw something he hadn't seen before in their faces. Freedom. For the first time, they had a place to play without guilt, without fear, without worry. Ethan settled in his office, but left the door open so he could hear the girls. The sound of their voices, laughing and talking, created a soundtrack that made work more pleasant than it had been in years. Around noon, he realized he had something important to do. "Girls," he called. They appeared at the office door, all with paint-stained hands. "Are you okay here by yourselves for a few hours?" "We're always by ourselves," said Emma. "We know how to take care of ourselves." "I know you do. But today I'm leaving someone with you anyway." "Why?" "Because you don't have to take care of yourselves alone anymore." Ethan called a nanny agency he occasionally used for corporate events. In 30 minutes, Margaret, an experienced Irish lady, was at the door. "This is Emma, Sophie, Grace, and Lily," Ethan introduced. "They are very special." "Hello, dears," said Margaret with a warm smile. "What beautiful dolls you have." The girls hid behind Ethan, still shy with strangers. "Margaret will stay with you for a few hours," Ethan explained. "You can play normally. She's just here to make sure everything is okay." "Are you coming back?" asked Lily. "I'll be back in a few hours. I promise." "You really promise?" Emma insisted. "I really promise." He kissed each of their foreheads, a gesture that came naturally as if he had always done it, and left. On the way to Queens, Ethan thought about what he was about to do. It was a significant step, a declaration of intent. But it was necessary. The building where Claire lived looked even more dilapidated in the daylight. The peeling paint, the broken windows, the entrance in need of repair. It was not a safe place for 4 children. Ethan found the building manager on the ground floor, a middle-aged man with a tired expression. "Can I help you?" the man asked. "I'm here to talk about Claire Morgan, apartment 3B. The manager's expression changed. "Look, I know she's going through a tough time, but how much does she owe?" Ethan interrupted. "What do you mean? In back rent? How much does she owe?" The manager hesitated. "Are you her family?" "I'm a friend, and I want to clear the debt." "It's 4 months of back rent," said the manager. $3,200. Ethan took out his checkbook. "And the rent for the next 6 months. You want to pay 6 months in advance?" "I do." As he filled out the check, Ethan said, "They don't owe anything more, and they will never hear threats again." The manager looked at the check, surprised by the amount. "So this is very generous, but it's not generosity," Ethan cut in. "It's necessity. These girls need stability. And does Ms. Morgan know you're doing this?" "She will. But for now I want the worry of rent to disappear from their lives." Back in the car, Ethan felt lighter. It was a small but significant step. Claire and the girls would have at least 6 months without worrying about housing, but he knew it was just the beginning. There was much more to be done. When he got home, he found the girls in the kitchen with Margaret, having a snack. They ran to him as soon as they saw him. "Mr. Ethan," they shouted, hugging his legs. "Did you miss me?" he asked, laughing. "A lot," said Grace, "but we were good." "They were little angels," Margaret confirmed. "So very polite and careful." After Margaret left, the girls went back to their toys. Ethan watched them, noticing how they seemed more relaxed, freer. For the first time in their lives, they had the freedom to play without guilt, without fear, without worry. And for the first time in 8 years, Ethan knew exactly what his purpose was. The day had been perfect. The girls had spent hours playing with their new toys, drawing with the colored markers, creating stories with their dolls. Ethan had worked from home, occasionally interrupted by requests for approval on a drawing or a question about how to spell a word. Around 7 in the evening, they had dinner together. Ethan had ordered pizza, another novelty for the girls, who ate with their usual care but now with more frequent smiles. "Can we save a piece?" Emma asked, always thinking of the future. "You can eat all you want," Ethan said, "and if you get hungry later, we'll order more." "More pizza?" Grace's eyes widened. "As many as you want." It was amazing how simple concepts like food available whenever you want still surprised them. After dinner, they settled in the living room with their art supplies spread across the rug. Sophie was drawing portraits of each sister. Grace was creating comic strips with her dolls as characters. Emma was writing in her new notebook, and Lily was coloring in a book with absolute concentration. Ethan was answering emails on the sofa, but in reality, he spent more time watching the girls than working. There was something mesmerizing in the way they naturally organized themselves, communicated with glances, and took care of one another. It was then that the first clap of thunder echoed. The four girls instantly stopped what they were doing, like alert deer. "It was just thunder," Ethan said calmly. "It's going to rain." But the second clap of thunder was louder, closer. The apartment windows trembled slightly. Emma stood up and walked to the large living room window. Outside, the sky was dark, heavy with thick clouds. Lightning cut across the distant horizon. "It's a big storm," she observed, her voice trying to sound casual but failing to hide her concern. The third clap of thunder made them all jump. Lily dropped her marker and ran to Emma. Sophie and Grace instinctively joined them. "Are you afraid of storms?" Ethan asked. "A little," Emma admitted, trying to sound brave for her sisters. "Just a little," Sophie agreed, but her voice trembled as another thunderclap rumbled. The rain began then, first a few drops on the window, then a complete downpour. The wind howled between the buildings, making strange noises that echoed through the apartment. Lily started to cry softly. "Hey," Ethan said, getting up and approaching them. "It's okay. We're safe in here." "Storms are dangerous," Grace whispered. "They can be, but not when you're in a safe place like this." "Our house always makes strange noises when there's a storm," Emma explained. "And sometimes the power goes out. And it gets very dark," added Sophie, "and cold." Ethan imagined the four girls alone in the precarious Queen's apartment during storms, perhaps with Claire working late, dealing with leaks, power outages, fear. "It's different here," he said firmly. "This building is solid. The power won't go out and you're not alone." Another clap of thunder, this one more intense, made them all huddle even closer. "You know what we used to do when I was a kid during storms?" Ethan asked. "What?" Lily whispered. "We built forts. Forts, with sheets and pillows. A special place where storms couldn't get in." Their eyes lit up slightly. "How does it work?" asked Emma. "Come on, I'll show you." Ethan went to get sheets from the guest room closet. When he returned, the girls were clustered on the sofa, watching the rain through the window. "First, we need to choose where to build," he said, spreading out a large sheet. "Oh, how about there, between the sofa and the armchair?" They nodded, still apprehensive but curious. Ethan began to stretch the sheet, using cushions to hold down the ends, creating a structure that looked like a makeshift tent. The girls watched his every move. "Now we need more sheets for the walls," he said, handing another sheet to Emma. "Do you want to help?" Gradually, they became involved in the project. Emma held one end while Ethan secured the other. Sophie helped arrange the cushions. Grace and Lily brought pillows from the bedroom. In 15 minutes, they had created a spacious fort in the middle of the living room. Inside, it was cozy and insulated from the sounds of the storm. "Now we go in," Ethan said. The four girls crawled into the fort, followed by Ethan. Inside, the light was soft, filtered through the sheets. The space felt magical, separate from the outside world. "It's like a secret house," Lily whispered, amazed. "A house just for us," Grace agreed. Another clap of thunder echoed, but this time they didn't flinch as much. The fort seemed to offer psychological protection against fear. "Do you feel safer here?" Ethan asked. "Much," said Emma. "It's like the storm can't find us." "Exactly." They settled inside the fort, sitting in a circle with pillows around them. Ethan noticed how the girls seemed smaller in that intimate space, more vulnerable, but also more relaxed. "Mr. Ethan," said Sophie, "are you afraid of anything?" "Everyone is afraid of something," he replied. "Even adults." "What are you afraid of?" asked Grace. Ethan thought for a moment. What was he afraid of? Of losing the people he loved again, of not being good enough to take care of them, of Claire not wanting him to be a part of the girls' lives. "Gus, I'm afraid of disappointing the people who are important to me," he said honestly. "What do you mean?" Emma wanted to know. "Of not being able to take good care of them, of not being what they need." The girls looked at each other. "You take very good care of us," Lily said with conviction. "Better than anyone has ever taken care of us," added Sophie. "Except our mum," Emma quickly corrected. "Except our mum," the others agreed. The rain continued outside, but the sound was muffled by the sheets. Inside the fort, they were in their own world. "Can I tell you a story?" Ethan asked. "Yes," they replied in unison. Ethan began to invent a story about 4 princess sisters who lived in a magical castle. Each had a special talent. One drew maps that showed hidden treasures. Another sang songs that calmed storms. The third wrote books that came to life. And the fourth had the gift of making anyone feel loved. The girls listened fascinated, occasionally interrupting to ask questions or suggest changes to the story. "And were they happy?" Grace asked when Ethan finished. "Very happy, because they had each other. Like us," Sophie observed. "Like you." As the night went on, the storm began to subside, but the girls showed no desire to leave the fort. They snuggled closer, using their dolls as pillows. Ethan lay beside them, watching how they naturally arranged themselves for sleep. Emma always in a position to protect the others, Sophie and Grace in the middle, Lily on the other end. "Mr. Ethan," a voice whispered in the dark. "Yes. We never met our father." The confession came softly, almost inaudibly. Ethan couldn't identify which of the girls had spoken. "Never?" he asked gently. "Never. He left before we were born. Do you miss him?" There was a long pause. "We don't know," came the reply. "How can you miss someone you've never met? But sometimes we wonder," another voice whispered, "what it would be like to have a dad." "And now we know," said a third voice. Ethan felt his heart race. "You know? It's like this," whispered the fourth voice. "Having someone who takes care of us, who makes us feel safe, who builds forts when we're scared, who buys us dolls," added another, "and doesn't get mad when we make noise," a third continued, "and promises we'll never be hungry again," finished the fourth. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling an intense emotion rise from his chest. There in that small, cozy space, surrounded by 4 girls who had entered his life only a few days ago, he felt something he had never experienced before. Total connection, absolute purpose, the certainty that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. This is love, he thought. This is what unconditional, protective, transformative love means. Not the romantic love he had felt for Claire, but something different, equally powerful. The love of someone who chooses to care, to protect, to sacrifice. The love of a father. "You are all very special," he whispered into the darkness. "You're special too," a sleepy voice replied. "Very special," another agreed. One by one, the voices became more spaced out, more sleepy. In a few minutes, Ethan heard the regular breaths that indicated they had fallen asleep. He stayed awake longer, listening to the rain subside outside, watching the small shapes beside him. 4 girls who had lost their innocence too soon, but who could still trust, still love, and who, somehow unexplainably, had chosen to trust him. There, in that makeshift fort, Ethan knew his life had changed forever. It was no longer just about him, his company, his financial success. It was about them, about protecting them, giving them the childhood they deserved, being the father they never had. And for the first time in 8 years, Ethan slept with a heart completely at peace. The next morning, Ethan woke up early in the makeshift fort, surrounded by 4 girls sleeping soundly. The storm had passed, leaving only the soft sound of drops dripping from the building's roof. Careful not to wake them, he slipped out of the fort and made coffee. Today was the day to visit Claire at the hospital. She had called the night before, her first call since being admitted, saying she was feeling much better. The girls woke up one by one, still inside the fort, whispering among themselves as if sharing a secret. "Good morning, princesses," Ethan said, peeking inside the fort. "Good morning," they replied, smiling. "How did you sleep well?" "Better than at home," Emma admitted. "There, when there's a storm, we stay awake, scared of the noise. Here we felt safe," added Sophie. After breakfast, They got ready to go to the hospital. The girls were anxious to see their mother, but also worried. Is she really going to be okay? Lily asked for the third time. She's going to be great, Ethan assured her. Dr. Harrison said she was much better yesterday. At the hospital, they found Claire sitting up in bed, with much more color in her face. She was wearing hospital pajamas, but her eyes were bright and alert for the first time since Ethan had found her again. "Mommy!" the girls shouted, running to hug her. "Hey, my princesses," Claire said, kissing each of them. "I missed you so much." "We missed you too," said Grace. "But Mr. Ethan took very good care of us." Claire looked at Ethan over her daughters' heads. There was gratitude in her eyes, but also something else, a mixture of relief and concern. "Hi," she said simply. "Hi, how are you feeling?" "Much better. The doctors say I can be discharged today." "That's great." The girls settled on the bed around Claire, each competing to tell their adventures of the last 2 days. They talked about the diner, the new toys, the fort Ethan had built during the storm. Claire listened to everything attentively, asking questions, smiling at the funny parts. But Ethan could see she was processing much more than her daughter's words. She was assessing how different they seemed. More relaxed, happier, more secure. "The girls must be a handful," Claire said when they paused in their narrative. Ethan looked at her directly. "So you have amazing daughters, and I'm already very fond of them." Something passed through Claire's eyes, surprise, perhaps relief. "They really are amazing," she agreed. "They're all the good I have in the world." "Mommy," said Emma, "Mr. Ethan bought us dolls and markers and notebooks." "And he let us eat pizza," added Grace. "Shadi built a fort when we were scared of the storm," said Lily. "And he said we'll never be hungry again," finished Sophie. Claire looked at Ethan again, this time with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Can you guys go see if there's anything interesting in the hospital gift shop?" Claire suggested to the girls. "Here's a little money." She took a few crumpled bills from the nightstand. "They don't need money," Ethan said quickly. "I'll take care of it." "Ethan, girls, go check out the gift shop. Buy whatever you want." After the girls left, Claire and Ethan were alone for the first time since their reunion. The silence stretched between them, heavy with 8 years of unsaid words. "Thank you," Claire said finally, "for taking care of them, for paying for the hospital, for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." She hesitated. "I know you must have a lot of questions." Ethan pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. "I have one question," he said calmly. "Why did you leave?" Claire closed her eyes and leaned back against the pillow. When she opened them again, they were shining with unshed tears. "It was too much pressure," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I was being judged. Your mother told me I wasn't good enough." Ethan felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. His mother had always been controlling, but he didn't know she had pressured Claire directly. "What did she say to you?" "Many things. That I wasn't educated enough to be with you, that I would hinder your career, that you would get tired of me, and it would be better for me to leave before that happened." "Claire, I loved you, Ethan." The tears began to flow. "But I thought disappearing was for the best. For you. For your future. You didn't have the right to make that decision alone." "I know. But I was 19 and terrified. Your mother seemed so sure I was going to ruin your life." Ethan stood up and began to pace the small room, trying to control his anger. "And then? What happened after you left?" Claire wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I tried to start over. I got a job, a small apartment, and then I met someone." Ethan stopped pacing. "The girl's father. David." She said the name as if it had a bitter taste. "He seemed kind, caring. He said he loved me. We were together for a few months, and then I found out I was pregnant. And him. When he found out it was 4 babies, Claire laughed bitterly. "He said he hadn't signed up for that. He disappeared the next day." Ethan felt his chest tighten. Claire had lost 2 important people in her life. First him, because of his mother's interference, then the girl's father, out of pure cowardice. "So you raised the girls alone?" "With effort and pain," Claire confirmed. "But I never regretted it. They are everything to me. They saved me, actually." "How so?" "After David left, I was completely lost. But the girls gave me a purpose. I had to be strong for them. I had to find a way to survive." Ethan returned to the chair and, hesitantly, took Claire's hand. "I never forgot you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I spent 8 years wondering what I had done wrong, why you had left. You did nothing wrong. The mistake was mine, for not trusting what we had, for not fighting." They sat in silence for a moment, hands intertwined, processing 8 years of misunderstanding and pain. "Claire," Ethan said finally, "and if the girls want to, I want to be their father." Claire's eyes widened. "Ethan, I'm not asking for an answer now, but I want you to know that's what I want. To take care of you, to protect you, to be a real family. You've only known them for 3 days. 3 days was enough for me to know that I love them, and I never stopped loving you, Claire." Tears returned to her eyes. "This is a lot to process." "I know, but think about it. Think if this is what you want too." Just then, the girls returned from the gift shop, each carrying a small souvenir. "Look what we bought, Mommy," said Grace, showing a heart-shaped keychain. "It's beautiful," Claire said, trying to hide that she had been crying. The girls spent the rest of the visit showing their purchases and telling more details about the last few days. Claire listened attentively, but Ethan could see she was thinking about the conversation they had had. When it was time to leave, Claire was ready for discharge. Dr. Harrison gave some final recommendations, and she signed the papers. "Where are you going to stay?" Claire asked, as they left the hospital. "At my place," Ethan replied, "until you decide what you want to do." "Ethan, I can't." "Yes, you can. And you will." In the car on the way home, the girls chatted with Claire about everything they had seen and done. Ethan drove in silence, watching in the rearview mirror as Claire smiled at her daughters as they snuggled up beside her. When they arrived at the apartment, the girls ran to show Claire all their new toys. She followed them, amazed at the abundance that was now a part of their lives. "This is all ours, Mommy," Emma explained. "Mr. Ethan bought it for us. And we can use it whenever we want," added Sophie. "Without worrying if we're going to break it," said Grace. "And if it breaks, he'll buy another one," finished Lily. Claire looked at Ethan, who was watching the scene, leaning against the wall. "Can I talk to you for?" Ethan said to the girls. They sat on the sofa in a row, like little soldiers awaiting instructions. "I wanted to ask you for something," Ethan began, feeling his heart race. "What is it?" asked Emma. "So if you want to, I can be your father." The girls looked at each other, whispering quickly among themselves. Then they smiled, big, genuine smiles, full of joy. "We already like you a lot," they replied, almost in unison. "Does that mean yes?" Ethan asked, laughing. "Yes," they all shouted together, jumping off the sofa to hug him. Claire watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. But this time they were tears of happiness. For the first time in 8 years, she could see a future full of hope for her daughters, and maybe, just maybe, for herself too. 3 days after Claire was discharged, Ethan knew there was a conversation he could no longer postpone. For years, he had let his mother interfere in his life, make decisions for him, dictate what was best for his future, but now he had a family to protect. It was time to confront Margaret Wallace. "I'm going out for a few hours," he said to Claire, who was in the kitchen helping the girls with an afternoon snack. "Okay," she replied, but Ethan could see the worry in her eyes. In the last few days, they had talked a lot about the past, about the misunderstandings, about the wounds that needed to heal. Claire knew he hadn't told his mother about their reunion yet. "Where are you going?" asked Emma, always attentive. "To visit my mother." "Your mother?" Sophie seemed interested. "Do we have a grandmother?" The simple question made Ethan hesitate. Technically, the girls weren't his biological daughters, but in his heart, they already were. And if he was going to be their father, Margaret would indeed be their grandmother. "Maybe," he said carefully. "We'll see." The Wallace mansion on Long Island was exactly as Ethan remembered. Imposing, cold, perfect. Every detail calculated to impress. Every piece of furniture positioned to demonstrate status. It was everything his home with Claire and the girls was not. Empty of real love. Margaret received him in the formal living room, wearing one of her expensive suits and an expression that mixed pleasure and disapproval. "Ethan, dear," she said, kissing the air beside his face. "What a surprise. You haven't been here in months." "Hi, Mum. Sit down. I'll have Mary bring tea." "No need." I won't be staying long. Margaret arched a perfectly drawn eyebrow. Oh, and why not? Ethan sat in the armchair she indicated, but kept his posture straight, prepared for the battle he knew was coming. I need to tell you something. I hope it's good news, perhaps about that girl from the Henderson family I mentioned. Jennifer is a charming young woman, a Yale graduate, a very respectable family. No, Mom. Or maybe about the company's expansion. I know you were considering opening an office in... Mom, stop! Margaret stopped mid-sentence, clearly surprised by his firm tone. I found Claire, Ethan said directly. The silence that followed was icy. Margaret was completely still for a moment, then placed her teacup on the table with a sharp clink. Claire, she repeated, as if the name tasted bad. Claire Sullivan. Claire Morgan now. And before you say anything, you need to know, we're together. Ethan, for God's sake. And she has 4 daughters. Daughters that I'm going to adopt. Margaret stood up abruptly, beginning to pace the room. This is ridiculous. You can't be serious. I am completely serious. Ethan, you are a successful, wealthy, respected man. You can have any woman you want. Why would you settle for a woman who already has children by another man? Because I love her. And I love her, girls. Love, Margaret laughed bitterly. Love doesn't pay the bills, Ethan. Love doesn't build empires. I've already built my empire, Mom. Now I want to build a family. Margaret stopped pacing and faced him. You are making a terrible mistake. This woman will ruin your life, just as I warned you 8 years ago. No, Ethan said, standing up as well. 8 years ago, you ruined my life. You said horrible things to Claire. You made her believe she wasn't good enough for me. Because she wasn't, and she still isn't. You don't have the right to judge that. I am your mother, and I am a grown man. Who has made a decision? Margaret took a deep breath, clearly trying to control herself. Ethan, think about what you're doing. Your reputation, your business, your future. My future is with Claire and the girls. And what if she's just after your money? A single woman with 4 daughters suddenly finds a billionaire. Enough! Ethan's voice came out louder than he intended. Enough, Mum. Margaret looked surprised. She wasn't used to him raising his voice. I found Claire. We are together. And I don't want you to interfere in my life anymore. Ethan, I don't want to hear another word against Claire or the girls. If you want to be part of our lives, you'll have to accept all of us. If you can't do that, then you won't be a part. Are you giving me an ultimatum? I'm giving you a choice. Margaret sat down slowly, as if her legs could no longer support her. I just want what's best for you, she said, her voice sounding smaller. I know, but what's best for me is Claire and the girls. If you can't accept that, then you don't really want what's best for me. Ethan walked to the door, then stopped. They are incredible girls, Mom. Smart, loving, brave. If you give them a chance, you might find that being a grandmother is better than being controlling. And he left, leaving Margaret alone in the cold room. On the way back to Manhattan, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. He had finally set boundaries, stood up for the people he loved, taken control of his own life. But when he got home and saw Claire and the girls playing in the living room, a new realization hit him. The apartment, as luxurious as it was too small for 5 people. The girls were all sleeping in the guest room. Claire was on the sofa bed in the living room. There was no space to really play, to grow, to be a real family. They needed a house. The next morning, Ethan called the best real estate agent in New York. I need a house, he said. Big enough for a family of 5 with a yard. In a good neighborhood, with excellent schools nearby. What kind of budget are we considering, Mr. Wallace? Unlimited. I need the perfect house. 2 weeks later, they were standing in front of a renovated Victorian house in Westchester, 40 minutes from downtown Manhattan. The house was large without being ostentatious, elegant without being cold. It had 6 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, a living room with a fireplace, and best of all, a huge yard with trees to climb and enough space for 4 girls to run freely. Is it ours? Emma whispered, looking at the facade. It's ours, Ethan confirmed. For real? Asked Sophie. For real? Forever? Grace wanted to know. Forever. Even if we make a mess? Asked Lily. Especially if you make a mess. The girls looked at each other for a second, then burst into shouts of joy and ran towards the yard. They didn't wait for the agent's explanation, didn't want to see the inside first. They ran straight for the lawn, rolled in the grass, discovered every tree, every corner of the space that was now theirs. Claire stood at the entrance, watching her daughters run free for the first time in their lives. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "They've never had space to run," she said softly to Ethan. "Now they do. It's too big, too expensive. It's the right size for our family." Claire turned to look at him. "Our family. Our family." They stood there for a few minutes, watching the girls discover every inch of the yard. Emma had found a perfect tree to climb. Sophie was picking flowers for a bouquet. Grace was singing and dancing on the grass. Lily had discovered a small abandoned garden and was planning aloud what they would plant. "Thank you," Claire whispered. "For what?" "For giving us a home, a family, a future." "Thank you," Ethan replied, "for letting me be a part of it." That night, at their first dinner in the new house, sitting around the large kitchen table, Ethan looked at his family. Claire was serving the food. The girls were chattering about their plans for the garden, and for the first time in 8 years, he was exactly where he belonged. He had made the choice that changed everything, and he didn't regret it one bit. 6 months after moving into the house in Westchester, on a sunny spring morning, Ethan woke to the familiar sound of giggles coming from the garden. Through the bedroom window, he saw the 4 girls playing among the flowers they had planted together. Claire was in the kitchen making coffee, wearing the blue robe he had bought for her. Her hair was in a messy bun, and yet Ethan thought she had never looked more beautiful. "Good morning," he said, kissing the nape of her neck. "Good morning. The girls woke up early today. They're excited." "And you?" Claire turned to look at him, smiling. "Excited too. Today was their wedding day. It wouldn't be a grand ceremony. It would be intimate, simple, perfect. Just the 5 of them and the justice of the peace in the garden of the house that was now everyone's home." "Are you still sure?" Claire asked, touching his face. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." 2 hours later, the garden had been transformed. White chairs were arranged in a semicircle around a small makeshift altar under the girls' favorite tree. The girls wore identical dresses in a light pink shade. Each held a small bouquet of flowers from their own garden. Claire wore a simple but elegant dress in a cream tone. She had left her hair down, the way Ethan had always liked it. "It's time," announced Emma, who had appointed herself the official ceremony organizer. They took their positions under the tree. The justice of the peace, a kind, middle-aged man, smiled at the assembled family. "We are here today to celebrate not only the union of Claire and Ethan," he began, "but the official formation of a family that has already existed for some time." The girls smiled, clearly proud of their special role in the ceremony. "Ethan," said the judge, "do you take Claire to be your wife, promising to love and care for her for the rest of your life?" "I do," Ethan replied, looking directly into Claire's eyes. "And do you also promise to love and care for Emma, Sophie, Grace, and Lily as if they were your own daughters?" "I promise," Ethan said, looking at each of the girls. "Forever." "Claire," the judge continued, "do you take Ethan to be your husband?" "I do," Claire said, her voice thick with emotion. "And you, girls," said the judge, addressing the 4, "do you accept Ethan as your father?" "We do," they replied in unison, grinning from ear to ear. "Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. And I officially declare you a family." Ethan kissed Claire softly, and the girls burst into applause and shouts of joy, throwing flower petals into the air. It was more than a wedding. It was the official formation of something that had already existed in their hearts for months. After the ceremony, they had a simple lunch in the garden. The girls told jokes, Claire laughed until she cried, and Ethan felt his heart could burst with happiness. "May I make a toast?" asked Emma, raising her glass of juice. "Of course," said Ethan. "To our family," she said solemnly. "May it always be like this, full of love." "Cheers!" they all shouted, clinking their glasses. 3 months later, it was a rainy Sunday afternoon. Ethan was in the kitchen making tea. He had discovered he loved these simple domestic moments. In the living room, the girls were spread out on the rug with their art supplies. Sophie was drawing, Emma was writing in her diary, Grace was coloring, and Lily was creating stories with her dolls. "Sadista," called Grace, "can you help me pick a color for this flower?" Ethan's heart still skipped a beat every time they called him Dad. "How about pink?" he suggested, leaning down to look at the drawing. "Pink is perfect," Grace agreed. Claire was reading in the armchair, but Ethan could feel her gaze on him. When he turned, he found her eyes watching the scene with absolute tenderness. "What is it?" he asked. "Nothing," she said, smiling. "I'm just looking at my family." "Our family," he corrected. Ethan finished making the tea and brought a cup to Claire. She pulled him down to sit on the arm of the chair. "You know what I'm thinking," she said softly. What?" "About how life changes. A year ago, I was desperate, not knowing how I was going to pay the rent, and now I'm watching them paint on a very expensive rug without a care in the world." Ethan took her hand. "Do you regret anything?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing." She paused. "Thank you for coming back." The simple sentence carried 8 years of longing, months of fear and infinite gratitude. "I came back to never leave again," Ethan replied softly, kissing her fingers. "Promise?" "I promise. This time it's forever." Just then, Lily got up from the rug and ran to them. "Dad, Mom, look what I drew for you." It was a simple drawing made with crayons. It showed a house with a garden full of flowers. In front, 5 stick figures held hands. At the top, in crooked letters, "Our happy family forever." "It's perfect," said Claire, her eyes shining. "It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen," Ethan agreed. "Can I stick it on the fridge?" Lily asked. "We're going to frame it and put it on the living room wall," Ethan said. "Really?" Lily's eyes widened. "Really? It's a work of art." Lily ran back to tell her sisters. Soon the 4 of them were planning a family art gallery. Ethan and Claire watched, hands intertwined, hearts full. "How they accepted you so naturally," Claire said. "As if you were always part of our lives." "Maybe I always was," Ethan said. "Maybe they were just